My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. I'm only here to even a score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
What up, Night Nation? It's your boy Roger, and it's another episode of the Nighted Ones podcast, number 114 to be accurate. We are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous, yes, that's infamous rapper, our resident influencer and IG star, shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, and check out the 70-plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle. Okay, guys, it's playoff time. And normally this is the part of the season where I just hang up and wait for the championship game. But there's a lot to talk about. And a lot that impacts the Big 12 and UCF. And we're going to talk a lot about it. We're talking about what's going on with Miami, what's going on with Notre Dame. There's 2 G6 teams in the playoff. What that all means, what the BCS says it should be, and does it spark any kind of realignment in our future? So there's more to talk about that. We've got the new UCF O-line coach that's expected this week. What does that mean? Because they're a bowl coach. How does the movement affect all of that? And it's a portal party. There's lots of movement happening right now, lots of conversations, lots of discussion. Texas's CJ Baxter is available. He was the starting running back as a freshman for the University of Texas, hometown hero, somebody who was very interested in us. In fact, got on some spaces. So is there some smoke there? We'll talk a little bit about more updates from the recent board meeting for UCF. There was a private funding cap that got increased. And what does that mean for us? We'll talk UCF basketball. There's a lot to talk about there. We are 8-1, the best start in Johnny Dawkins' tenure. We'll talk a little bit about UCF baseball as the schedule has been released there. And we'll obviously talk to you about all of the comments that you put in. And then Josh Lazar will take us through his quick update on UCF sports that other people don't watch. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start the show with the one, the only, last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar. And he froze. He's like, if you're not watching.
Hello, world, I'm here.
Show, yeah, now he's here. He's a little delayed.
I've been here. It's weird. I literally rebooted my computer before doing this. And all I'm doing is I'm finishing up prep for your fun fact of the week. And you start talking like this. I don't know what the heck is going on. Hey, world.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm here.
I don't either. But Josh, are you back in your old office yet with the good internet connection or no?
I have 500 megs to this computer. I'm on a 32 gig RAM i7 computer. This is our platform for my business. This never happens. So I can't tell you.
I don't know. I don't know either. Either way, we've got a lot to talk about this week. Unfortunately, you've noticed, and I want to kind of get this out of the way. For those of you that watch us and those of you that listen to us after the fact, you've noticed that we've had less folks that have joined us, or more sporadically that have joined us over time. So I'm not going to say who or what or whatever, but baby fever has struck the podcast. And what that means is, at least for the time being, there's a little less availability because we may be welcoming some new nights to our family relatively soon. So just wanted to put that out there if you're wondering why we aren't seeing certain members of the family here as often. Ben Stout, unfortunately, has had all of his kids. So it's definitely not Ben. He's just a basketball coach and a bunch of other stuff. But we will get them back. Also, Nobra has completed his semester at UCF. He took a break to finish his last semester because he will be graduating this fall. So congratulations to him. And we are hoping to get him back soon as well. But for now, you're stuck with me and Josh's bad internet. So it's your internet. Okay. So let's get right into it. We don't have a football game to talk about, but we do have football to talk about. We could have. And that was one of the things we were going to talk about. So UCF had we hinted at this. Alan said this earlier this season. He was talking about it. He was like, the only way we get to a bowl game is if we get to one of those 5 and 7 slots. And guess what? UCF was offered that opportunity, but chose to acquiesce. So they did not take advantage of that, as well as 7 other teams that chose not to participate in a bowl game after being offered at 5 and 7. So we're talking about everybody from Clemson to Rutgers to UCF. 7 other teams just basically declined. Now, Notre Dame also declined, and that'll dovetail into a little bit of that playoffs talk. There's a couple things that are happening right now in bowl season. One is you've got the situation like UCF's, which is, hey, they already knew that a bunch of these players weren't coming back, so they released them. They sent them home. They didn't think we were going to have a bowl season because we were number 5 or 6. We were the 5th or 6th call on that 5 and 7 list. So, most of the players were gone. We were out there recruiting, and UCF basically said, I would rather instead of trying to play with who we have left and give up the opportunity to really go deep on the portal and everything else that we're trying to do, we'd rather sit this one out. Now, what's interesting about that is Scott Frost and how serious they are about this, and whether you're doubting the reasons why. Scott Frost actually had a bonus in his contract of $1 million if he would have made a bowl game this year, and he still said no. And then that's
a contract extension. He would have gotten another year in his contract on top of that.
And another contract extension. Exactly.
It's important not to go to a bowl game anymore, which is what we've learned.
Well, it's not only that, but it's the why, right? So for UCF,
Correct.
We talked about those things. Folks, we didn't have really a team anyway. We weren't expecting to bring back anybody. So we told everybody to go home. There are other schools like Notre Dame who are just saying, hey, screw it. This bowl isn't worth us playing it. We missed out on the playoffs. So I'm going to take my proverbial ball, and go home. And they did, which is crazy. So I want to focus first because that conversation kind of dovetails into the playoffs. And we'll talk a little bit about that, how it affects the Big 12 and the ACC for that matter, and what that means going forward. But for now, Josh, what do you think about this? Was a little controversial. I saw a bunch of different things on both sides of the fence where Knights fans were saying, hey, we should have done this, right? Some people were worried, is the Big 12 going to fine us? And actually, the Big 12 is not fining us because there were 2 other Big 12 teams that turned down bowl games at 6 and 6, and they were each fined $500,000, Kansas State being one of them. They were each fined $500,000 for not participating. Because remember, that money goes to the rest of the schools in that pool through the conference distribution, right? UCF is not being assessed that because we were one of the 5 and 7 teams. We were not a 6 and 6 team, so we weren't expected to go anyway, and we still turned it down. So, Josh, what are your thoughts on bowl versus no bowl? UCF fans seem to be split down the middle with regard to that.
Well, let's make the assumption that we knew before we let everyone disperse and took off practicing that we were going to have a real potential at a bowl. Let's go back then, because right now it's silly. Like right now, there's 0.0% chance we should go to any bowl game. We have one-ish quarterback. We don't
Ish.
have a lot of right. We have a walk on, and we have Davi, and okay, right. You know, I'd love to see him succeed, but who's blocking for him, right? That we don't have a team. What do we need to do? We know what we have. Like bowl season in the past was multifold. You know, you have the same roster. It helps the seniors graduate and go on out on something that should be nice. You get extra practices, you get some swag and stuff at the bowls. It's kind of a fun experience. We're done now. No one cares about your $400 package of an Xbox going to a bowl game, because they get more than that by just showing up for a meeting. So
they get paid $100,000 a year. Who cares about the Xbox and the $400 package? Which
those makes no one cares about. So there's that part. And then we started to get into I'm going to be in the first 3 rounds. Why am I going to? What else do I have to show off? I don't know. Need to show anyone anything. I know pretty much where I'm going to be, and they're not getting penalized from the NFL by not showing up. So you had that. Now we're at the point where like if we were a 8-4 team, and we know generally who's going to be there next year, and it gets more time to develop that in the more traditional sense, sure. But now I don't think it makes sense, which is why the postseason tournaments for basketball that tie money to them are going to start to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because I think cash rules everything around me. So let me go all the way back. Bowl games. No, it's stupid. There's no reason we should have been in a bowl game regardless this year. It just wasn't worth it. We know what we have on the team. It's why a bunch of people are going to be gone, and we have to do a lot of recruiting beyond the 13 high school students that are coming in. So I don't know why anyone is saying, yeah, we should go to a bowl game. It makes no sense to me. Absolutely.
Well,
none.
I think the biggest thing is we don't have a team, right? Like you said, we've got 1.5 quarterbacks, right? And we told most of our offensive line, see ya, right? And we're basically turning the entire program over. The other part about this, not just for UCF, but college football wise and college football wide, if you are making 100, 150, 200, $800,000 a year, and you're going in the portal, the timing of the NIL portal isn't conducive to that, because nobody's going to risk injury if their next team is going to is going to have to pay them. So that's not going to happen. Their agents are not going to tell them play, etc. So I think we should put this to bed. There's no reason, zero, with the state of UCF football right now as to why we should accept any bowl game, let alone could we even have fielded a team, right? So to your point about the extra practices, the players that we had on the team this year, there are some, we went through them last episode on who we expected to stay. That team's gone. So there's no point in the extra practices for those players anyway. Taven Jackson announced he's in the portal. Again, there's no reason for it. So let's put that to bed. For the rest of college football, there has to be something done. And I like the idea of what you mentioned, the basketball side of things, because the inducement is those distributions to the NIL funds. So the way to, for example, it was like 2 weeks ago, there's a new tournament that's being put out there that the top 8 Big 12 basketball schools that are participating get an extra $1 million each for their NIL pool, right? And so there is incentive to be in the top 8. And I think applying that to the bowl games may be the only way that makes sense, honestly. So All right, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of the playoffs, what we saw, what we were expecting, etc. So let's start off with this. The big thing, if you've been paying attention at all today, is the Catholics versus convicts in a different manner, right? So Notre Dame's inclusion or exclusion versus Miami's inclusion in the playoff. The SEC gets 4 teams. Josh just jumped off. He'll be right back. And there's 2 G6 teams in the playoff this year. So who would have thought we didn't, when we were playoff eligible or should have been, we didn't get 1, let alone 2. Notre Dame gets left out. Alabama gets included, which I'm sorry. But the only reason, if this lineup, if you are watching this lineup, the only reason this lineup in the playoffs exists and this bracket exists is because SEC is owned by ESPN and ESPN owns the playoff. That being said, I went back and took a look at the BCS rankings and what the BCS would have ranked these teams. Now, again, the BCS, for those of you that haven't been college football fans very long, this was an attempt to numerically, using various models, and one of the models and indicators that we used to justify our championship was the Colley matrix, and that's one of the indicators. Based on the BCS model, which was the predecessor to the playoff, Indiana would have checked in at number 1, Ohio State at number 2, Georgia at number 3, Oregon, number 4, Ole Miss, number 5, Texas Tech, number 6, Texas A&M, number 7, Oklahoma, number 8, Notre Dame, number 9, BYU, number 10, Alabama, number 11. And if we had the 1 G6 spot, that would leave Texas out. So Alabama would still be in, as would BYU and Notre Dame. Nowhere to be found would be Miami. Tulane and James Madison, more than likely, I would say it would probably be Tulane, but I don't know. That would put in. They should have gotten in over JMU, but did not. Where the bracket landed, we have James Madison University as the 12 seed playing number 5 Oregon. Who wants to watch that game other than JMU fans? And I'm not saying anything against JMU because we were in a similar situation, but this is a team that just jumped up from FCS. When we're talking about strength of schedule, there's a big difference between playing teams like Cincinnati, etc., and the conference that James Madison's in. That's going to be fodder. That's going to be like watching. I hate to sound this way, but it's going to be like watching, I don't know, like not even the Pop-Tarts Bowl, like the old Gasparilla Bowl or something, right? Texas Tech is in. They have a bye. They are a 4 seed. Oregon is a 5 seed, which is interesting. Then you have Alabama and OU. Why are we watching Alabama and OU again? Nobody wants to watch 2 SEC teams play, right? The postseason, I'd rather have other people mix it up. Problem with that is you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 SEC teams. You've got 1, 2, 3 Big Ten teams, right? And then you've got 2 G6 teams. So then it's Indiana, who has a bye week the first game, so they'll play the winner of Oklahoma and Alabama. Then you've got Tulane versus Ole Miss. Tulane being the 11th seed, Ole Miss is a 6th seed. They play Georgia. Again, I don't know what Ole Miss is going to play like without Lane Kiffin. I'm going to assume they kept their players and most of their defensive coaching staff. So I assume they're going to give Tulane a fight. But Tulane's a fairly good team, so it'll be interesting. But do I really want to watch Ole Miss and Georgia? No. Then you've got Miami, who should not have been in as a 10 seed.
Absolutely
Miami
not.
should absolutely not have been in by any stretch of the imagination. They have multiple losses. You have BYU in front of them that should have been in, and or Notre Dame that should have been in. I'm not a big fan of the Fighting Irish when it comes to this, but they got absolutely hosed on that. Now, did Notre Dame lose to Miami during the season? Yes.
Yeah.
Should Miami have been in over Notre Dame? No. They're playing Texas A&M, and the winner of that game plays Ohio State, who had a bye and is the number 2 seed. So, again, no matter what metric you're looking at, whether it be fairness as to who should be in and where, if you're looking at games I want to watch, at least in the first round, not really a whole lot of games there that I want to watch. And relative to, think about this, Oregon has a week off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before one more week off than anybody else does because they didn't play in the championship game, right?
Yeah.
I think Alabama had a week off, right? So again, you're going in here and you're there's got to be something there where, like, even, and I'll put up for the SEC right now on the teams that did make it and played in the championship game. They've got, those other teams have one extra week of rest. Even though they're the higher seeds because they played in the championship game, they aren't getting a bye. So they're playing an extra game that those other seeds don't have to play, which is absolutely nuts to me. I mean, that just makes absolutely no sense.
The only people who are playing on the 19th and 20th are James Madison and Tulane, because they had to win to get in. Alabama didn't play. Oklahoma didn't play. Ole Miss, Miami didn't play, which is why we're having this. Neither did Texas A&M. So all the people that played, well, actually, no, Alabama played. Sorry. Most of the people that played are either in the top 4. Actually, Alabama's the only one that didn't play in the top 4. And yeah, that's a whole nother story. It's intriguing. As a team that would have been 11th or 12th, more than likely, in 2017, I don't know. Tulane might be interesting. Tulane could be interesting with Ole Miss because Kiffin isn't there, even though they kept their defensive coordinator and is now the coach, and other players are on board, and the OC is back for the. I think that could be interesting, but there's a reason those two are on TNT and True TV and not ABC or ESPN, right?
Yeah.
So
it doesn't matter though. Like, just if you look at it and boil it down, BYU should still be in. If you're looking at the top 12 teams, right? The Big 12 got hosed in favor of the G6. They absolutely did. ACC got one in too, one in as well, right? Huh?
They shouldn't have got one in. They should have
got Notre Dame in. I think Notre Dame should have been playing as their representative.
But I understand what you're saying. I don't count that as ACC when it comes to the ACC absolutely did not deserve to have anyone in there. Virginia would have taken care of their job. Okay, got it. But they didn't. And it floors me that the justification to leave out BYU is they got beat pretty good, not in their home, right? They got beat in Lubbock, they got beat in Arlington, not at home, and against probably, and I don't even, truth be told, they shouldn't even be 4. I think that's a ridiculous statement. I actually think Texas Tech deserves to be number 3, but that's a whole nother story.
Well,
we'll see.
I mean, the BCS would have ranked them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th.
Wow.
So I don't know about that, but what I do know is that Notre Dame should have been in. Miami should 100%. Not have been in.
Notre Dame
Alabama,
should be in, BYU should be in. End of statement. And sadly, for a significant amount of time, I was like, why do we guarantee anyone 1 or 2 spots? It should be up. But now I kind of see why. Right?
Now, if we would have gone by the BCS, there would be 6 SEC teams in. 6.
That's and then 2 Big 12 teams.
2
right?
Big 12 teams. Yep.
How many
2
ACC
Big 12
teams?
teams. 0.
0.
Unless you're counting Notre Dame.
Nope. They're still independent for football. That's what I'm saying. Like, and whether that
But
is
tell
good.
me how JMU and Tulane should get in over BYU. One of them, yes, because it's the highest ranked conference championship in the G6, right? So based on this, it should be Tulane on the BCS, right? So Tulane should have been in.
Of course.
James Madison, I'm happy for them because we were in your spot ages ago, right? So no shade on James Madison.
No.
But they're getting fed to the Lions. They're going up against an Oregon team that they're just going to blow their backs out, right? So, like, yeah, exactly. That's why I paused in saying it. But, you know, the reality is that's what's going to happen. So is this, let me ask you this, is this better than what the previous format was?
I mean, yeah, but it's not right, and I think that's the problem. We're not there yet. We're now. Do I think 16 solves this? I kind of do, because at some point you're just not good enough. Do I think let's throw BYU in here? Let's just throw BYU in like 10-ish, 10, 11. Do I think BYU can beat Texas A&M? Think so. They'd have a shot, right? And truth be told, Miami probably has a shot, but who knows? Texas A&M is -4 right now. I think I'd bet that if I were a betting man. Do I think BYU beats Ole Miss? Maybe. So that's kind of where I'm like. Do I think BYU beats JMU and Tulane? JMU, yes. Tulane, probably. So I get it. I think we have what we have now, which is better than the top 2 teams. Because I say that, but honestly, Indiana versus Indiana for top 2 teams by these stupid rankings are Indiana and Ohio State, which still I don't believe, but that would be stupid to have a rematch of a championship game. 4 is not too bad, right? 4 is not too bad with what we have right now. But so far in this, the top 4 have never won yet. Is that right? Or if I remember correctly,
what do you mean never won?
Yeah, because it was just last year, and like because I think Ohio State in 5th or 6th came back in. So are we better? Yeah. Are we where we need to be? Obviously not. And if Notre Dame getting snubbed and taking their ball and going home and actively saying that the ACC has basically not been good business partners, along with BYU putting out a ton of cannon fodder because their records are better than Miami, their records are better than JMU and probably Tulane too, and Notre Dame.
Miami didn't even make Miami. Miami should not be in.
No.
And so
if it was Notre Dame, I understand it, but that's the thing. If you had an expanded 16 with the 3 that you're popping in, or 2 of the 3, so we have 12 now. You have BYU, Notre Dame, and then I don't know how far we need to go down this list.
Well, if you were to go to 16, and this is where I was going to go next, you would include Vanderbilt, which I think deserves it.
Yeah.
Utah. Then it would be Miami at 15, and then USC at 16. So
I don't think that's that bad. Like, if you're saying 16, do I think Miami's in the top 16 teams? Yeah, I think they were really good and took some bad losses. Well, not bad, but like losses. You're like, yeah. Even listen, SMU's the one that messed this all up. SMU winning would have been a big
It wasn't
difference.
just yes, and when we look at it from the 16-team perspective, that means the Big 12 would have 3 teams in. And even at the Big 10, I think had 4-4, 2-2, and then whatever the rest of it was, 3 at large or whatever, right? Was their proposal for that. So, realistically speaking, the Big 12 got hosed.
Yeah, 100%.
They should have had. Now, the Notre Dame versus Miami argument, Notre Dame, as you said, has been blasting the ACC, has been talking about basically tortious
interference.
Yes, exactly. Because according to Notre Dame, the ACC actively lobbied for Miami to be included. Now, their conference commissioner came out today and later this evening, because this has all been going on throughout the day, came back and said, hey, Notre Dame are valued partners. We didn't do that, right? But Notre Dame knows what's what. And that dirty laundry is being aired. So what does that mean on a go-forward basis? Because Notre Dame was already cagey and rumored to be wanting to go elsewhere. Does that open the door for them to finally explore going to the Big Ten? Or, we talked about this before this season or during this season, is Notre Dame was already making noise about creating its own conference. Michigan does not want to sign the extended GOR and take the financial investment that the Big Ten is taking in spite of their objections. So, is this something that spurs conference realignment yet again? Right? Is this something where Notre Dame turns around and says, okay, well, screw you guys. I'm going to go make my own conference because you're actively working against me. Yeah. That is the stupidest thing that the ACC could have done. Honestly.
See you guys and getting home. Yeah, I you're right. It's well, I mean, I know, I'd like the pipe dream of having Notre Dame in the as a conference partner to Big 12, because if you think your Mark is a business person at heart, and he is, we would probably be doing the opposite of whatever is going on the ACC here. And yes, I know we don't have the institutions that they probably want to be aligned with, and Big 10 is obviously the more obvious choice, but how many top dogs can you have? And we're
the other thing is, if you look at it from ESPN, like ESPN owns the playoff. We've talked about that before. Mm-hmm. ESPN paid up again extra to continue to own the playoff because the playoff and its commercials are the only reason that ESPN is profitable at the end of the year, right? So let's game this out. Let's say Notre Dame says, screw you, ACC, because that was a coup for ESPN because they had a scheduling agreement, right? And the home games, they got to show Notre Dame home games because Notre Dame has its own contract with, I believe it's NBC, right? Yeah. And they've had it for years, right?
Yeah, 80s.
So let's say they move away from the ACC or has a similar agreement with the Big 12, right? Now they become a Fox property. So it's an NBC and a Fox property. So that means ESPN, if that were to happen, just literally shot itself in the foot, right? We've already got a bunch of noise with FSU wanting to go out, although they kind of undercut their own.
They don't have a Jordan Travis situation.
Yeah, right? They don't have their own argument, right? Clemson has also been down. They were another one that was rabble rousing for, a potential or threatening a split or a suit of the ACC. And then you've got UNC that was kind of doing it in the background. So if Notre Dame moves away, and Notre Dame is the one school that doesn't give up, right? They didn't join the Big Ten because they were 100 years ago, whatever it was, they were rebuffed from the Big Ten conference. They still won't join that conference. They've stayed independent. They have an independent mission. right? They joined with the ACC to help them with the playoff because of what the playoff structure was at the time, right? And they've got plenty of money. Their mission isn't money, it's exposure for the faith, because that's literally why they play football, right?
Yeah.
They've got plenty of money. They don't need the money.
Yeah.
They like their partnership with NBC. They're actually taking less with NBC than if they would have joined someone else. So they've got this scheduling affiliation that they've got with the ACC. If that migrates to the Big 12, then ESPN basically loses all of the games that they would have had, right? Because USC joined who?
Yeah. Fox.
Right? Exactly. Right? And USC is the partner with them. Penn State, which is another one that Notre Dame plays regularly. Guess what? They are a Fox property as well. So this is huge. So then let's say that they then become a Fox property. What does ESPN do? Or if the Big Ten, maybe this is the impetus for them to finally join the Big Ten. If they join the Big Ten, they need a partner to play with them. And then what does the SEC do to counter that, right? Yeah. So 2030, 2031 is extremely important, right? I still think the ACC, and I told you guys this from the very beginning, I think the ACC is the conference that goes away. We have we have the ability, we have another contract cycle coming up in 2030 and 31. So if that happens any sooner, now, if it did happen, it wouldn't be, this doesn't happen quickly. It'd be a year or two from now if Notre Dame did it, which means that we'd be in 2027, which means that would be when the Big 12 is, gearing up for its talks for the next TV contract. So it'll be really, really, really interesting to see what happens with that. But the ACC just seems to trip over its own feet constantly. And by extension, ESPN might be losing a ton of viewers from that, because it does up their average up from having Notre Dame in there, because they're a huge, 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 huge draw. Okay. If they were to break the contract, could Notre Dame's general counsel say that the ACC's interference gives them the legal grounds to leave, to break their contract? They could. They could propose moving all their non-football revenue sports or non-revenue sports into the Big Ten, and then do a football scheduling agreement with either the Big Ten, which I think they'd be, if they were going to do that, I think they're more apt to do it with the Big 12 right now than they would the Big 10, because again, they've had a standing invitation and rebuffed them. Yeah. Or, have a football scheduling partnership with the SEC. Now that actually might be something that ESPN pushes for and wants to sweeten the pot for. I don't know how Notre Dame feels about that, but that would be a big shift. So again, it goes back to why it is so important, not that necessarily that we win, but that we're at least competitive when it comes to UCF in the Big 12. So what else do we want to add to that?
Yeah, I don't think too much. I mean, for us, a lot of this is just focusing on us. If we think about it a little bit further back, Coach Frost comes in kind of after the cycle, right? Comes in late in the game, doesn't have hasn't been actively working in college football for a couple years. Does what needs to be done, is starting to learn the NIL era, starting to take his own philosophy into it, and figured out this was not the year to go for a bowl game to get to 6th and 7th, but whatever, and gave up a bowl and is just letting the chips fall. The hope is all of that gives us dividends in the future, where we are middle of the pack to high in the pack, where we are competitive, where these conversations are about us and not getting snubbed. So we're in this really interesting place where The controversy is here. It's good narrative for everyone. Why are we spending 20, 25 minutes talking about it? Because it's compelling. It's compelling for multiple people. The fact that BYU wasn't even on the graphic of 3 shows both bias and the reality that even though computers would probably put them in, humans won't. And even though by most normal tests, if you will, Miami does not deserve to be in, they're in, and Notre Dame is not. There's so much crap going on right now that it just makes for good media. And
it's not only that, Josh,
hopefully we'll
but
be there soon.
I don't think it's just that. It's also the fact that what does this do for college football going forward? It's going to change things, right?
Oh,
Notre Dame's a big enough piece. The way this all shook out, there's been a big push to 16. It may accelerate that 16.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Number one. Number two, if Notre Dame, depending on how angry Notre Dame actually is, and they've been quite vocal in the media, as has BYU, there's considerations there and what that does if they decide to change their situation. And for the Big 12, this was a test or a litmus test for our ability to get 2 teams in under the same, under this new playoff structure. And right now, what it's proving is it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to put 2 G6 teams in there versus giving you 2 spots when the ACC shouldn't have even had 1.
Correct.
Right? So that's what that tells you. And then when you look at this again, should Alabama have been in there? No. What do you do with all the teams that sit idle in the non-championship game? That's another open question that needs to be figured out.
Yep.
They should have to play each other or something.
They're going to have to figure out something long term. You're 100% right. And 16 helps because at some point where the 32nd team is just not good enough. Even in the, I'd love to, Alan, if you're listening to this in post, maybe we'll have a conversation about how the teams 32 through 64 do in the FCS championships, but probably not good long term. And I don't think this is Cinderella time like it is in NCAA basketball. I think at some point you get to okay, after this, these teams aren't good. Right.
Well, I mean, you got Cinderella time. You've got 2 G6s in there versus the Big 12 having 2.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And I hate to be that guy, right? Because
we were on the other side
G6
of this recently. Yeah. But I mean, I get it. The penalty for getting beat by a $55 million really, really good team, should be top 3 team, is not getting a chance to play the game. That's at least at the highest level. That's what it is.
Well, on
Alabama gets to play that same game and go nowhere. Why? Because it seems like the committee stacked the odds for them to lose a game that they thought they were going to lose and stick around. Even though they shouldn't.
I'm sure their argument, Josh, is, hey, look, we're not going to penalize them for losing the championship game, right? But that's exactly what
FSU. That's their penalty.
I get it. My point is that if you're going to use that argument, then why the heck is BYU left out?
Oh, again, I agree. The Alabama's penalty for losing to BYU and making Gus look good should be not getting into a playoff.
You mean FSU?
Period. Yeah. Losing to FSU should you're done. You lose to a team that looks like good for a hot minute and then bottoms out. That sounds familiar from the last couple of years. No, I don't care how good your SEC schedule is. No.
How good is your SEC schedule if you're losing to those teams and you're playing 9 games against each other? But the thing that gets me, though, is no matter what, you are getting penalized by being in the championship game if you could potentially be left out or not sit idle for a week and those teams still make it in to the playoff, right? That's a problem too. So those are two things that they're going to have to address. And it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out, because that's my biggest problem. And obviously the U should not be in.
Yeah, and I would say for some of those teams, maybe it's the P4. I don't care. Maybe those who lose those games get into the bottom part of a 16 team play. Like, they're guaranteed a spot. You lose, you might be number 16, and you might have to play against number 1 team if you beat number 9 or whatever it is.
Well, let's put it this way: Ole Miss is right now the number 6 team, right? They just lost their head coach, right? What happens when you lose your head coach in the playoffs of the past? You get left out because you lost your head coach. Or if you lose your starting quarterback, right?
Right.
Exactly. So again, there are more issues and more bias in here than I think people are letting on, both in the rankings and how this all shook out and who is actually participating. So there's a lot to be figured out on that. And there's people that are pissed off enough that are doing things like Notre Dame, that are being boisterous about it, saying that the ACC, basically undercut them in favor of Miami, which of all schools to do that with the Notre Dame, Miami of all schools, right? So that's going to have reverberations in college football. What they're going to be, again, we talked about. Could be Notre Dame doing a new scheduling agreement. And Notre Dame has legal reason to breach their contract at this point, because if that can be proven to be true, and the ACC is already unstable as it is. So that could be a boon for the Big 12, or it could not be a boon for the Big 12. But either way, right now, BYU got hosed.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
Again, if they kept it closer, okay, fine. But still, they got hosed. All right. And the other byproduct of this is teams like Notre Dame are just not going to bowls.
Yeah.
They're taking their ball and going home. So how many other schools that don't make it that would have been in higher level bowls, that guts the bowl system too? Then you've got NIL on top of that. Or not NIL, the portal on top of that, which is going to gut those teams. And you've got coaches that are leaving right before these big games. So college football has a lot to fix with the playoff system, and the committee got it wrong.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close. Pretty clear to anyone who's not sitting in that room.
Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and swiv it a little bit to some more UCF focused stuff. I mean, that is UCF focused, and it does matter to us. But UCF is on the hunt for an O-line coach. We talked about that last week on how important it is because of the coaching carousel, right? For 2 reasons. One, the coaching carousel right now, just because a head coach leaves, they don't necessarily bring their own O-line coach with them. So there's a lot of O-line coaches out there that are looking for jobs, right? That's number one. Number two, it's extremely vital because we're in portal season, and O-line is one of the areas that we are bereft at talent at a Power 4 level. And so Scott Frost is on the hunt this week, and he hopes, he said in his presser, that he hopes to have an O-line coach by the end of this week. If he does, that means this is a head coach, or I'm sorry, an O-line coach that will not be in a bowl game. So let that sink in. Do we want an O-line coach that was O-line coach for a team that did not make the bowl game, unless it's a team that did a person who didn't follow their head coach to the new team? And then the question is, offensive line coach is one of the most important offensive coaches that are there. What does that say about that coach as well? So I'm kind of hoping, again, you can't wait through bowl season. Again, this is ideally you would wait through bowl season to see who was available, but we've got the portal coming up in a week or so, and we need offensive linemen. So, what do you think, Josh? Is this the right approach to try to get someone locked down by the end of the week? Or is this something that we should wait and kind of cross our fingers on? Or, I mean, there's no real good solutions here, but what do you think?
Maybe it's Notre Dame's offensive line coach. I don't know. The reality is that I feel like this is someone they've already had their eyes on. I mean, obviously, we need to fill the role. Obviously, it's a horrible situation, and even Coach Frost said that he doesn't even think most of the staff has even processed any of that yet. Like, really processed it. It's just kind of what sometimes what men do. Just put your head down and do your job and work.
And what you're referencing is the loss of Sean Clark.
Correct. So this is a known need, right? That was filled with mentors and mentees during the season, and more than likely they had an idea of what they wanted to do shortly thereafter on the season. So it could be a lot of different people. Maybe someone from the NFL. I don't know. But the truth is that more than likely they knew who this was, and they're just working on negotiations. And maybe it's probably someone who is going to be available. I don't think there's anyone in the playoffs, but look, so far I trust the coach. Right, the only new coach that is supposed to be on staff is this coach. Everyone else seems like they're staying, barring, like most jobs and roles. Someone offers you 3 or 4 times your salary, you're probably going. So we have the full staff back. We have a year to actually do what they need to do to recruit the way they want to recruit. Funding is changing a little bit, as you alluded to. I trust the coach. So with this specific thing, I trust him, and let's see what happens. We might be pleasantly surprised. We might not. Don't know. But we got more things to talk about when there is like literally almost no UCF sports going on. So at minimum, I'm excited to talk about it because we can dedicate some time to this one.
Yeah. So I think for me right now, I think the most important thing because of the portal is get the best that you can get as quickly as you can get, because it's hard to get offensive linemen to commit to you without an O-line coach and who they're going to play for, right? So it's a crap situation. There's no real good answers there. But I think we have to get someone in as early as possible so that they can play in the portal as early as possible and get as many offensive linemen as we possibly can, because that's the strategy. And it's going to be a rich portal because of all the coaches that have moved around in the offseason. Mm-hmm. So it's one half dozen or the other. Do you wait until they finish their bowls, or do you try to do it now? I think you strike while the iron is hot, try to see who you can get, or at least get a agreement in place, so that after the fact or during the portal, you can say, hey, this is who we're bringing in. We're just letting them play through the portal.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that I just read an alert that was it Rob's Sally? It might be Sale from UF is not being retained as offensive line coach. But I'm not seeing anything in his background that coordinates with anything that Coach Frost has done. So,
well, it's not that. I mean, he hasn't hired this go around. He said he made it a point not that he wasn't going to hire folks that he knew, right?
Yeah,
it's more about reputation and what he sees out there. So again, best available right now. Get them in. Let's get portal. Let's get in. Get ready for the portal, because otherwise, if we don't have a good portal haul in this offensive line cycle, you're setting us back for another year or two.
Oh yeah, we absolutely need, absolutely need someone.
All right. Speaking of the portal and a portal party, I'm going to go back through. We talked about who we thought we were going to stay. This is who is in the portal or expected to be in the portal right now for UCF. Jacques Joyner, and here's the cool thing. This is coming from On3. You can go look at this as well. These are the folks that are in the portal. Jacques Joyner, freshman, 3-star. He was a 3-star rating. crazy thing is they include the NIL value, $307,000 for a freshman who hardly played. Okay.
I don't know if I believe that.
Next is Ja'Cory Brown, who we expected and told you guys would transfer. He is in the portal, $345,000. Tony Williams, freshman, 6'1", 190, kind of athlete kind of guy. He was a 89.57, so borderline 4-star out of Palm Beach Central, $311,000. Jair Brown.
I was gonna say, I feel like being in basketball going, who? And that's just on them. They're freshmen, they didn't get any playing time, but like,
well, I mean, they were a good recruit.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying they weren't, but like Ja'Cory, yes. But so far, everyone else, who I could have like a paper up. I don't know half these people, but this is now college football, everyone.
Jair Brown, senior, he is $333,000. He was a 4-star cornerback. So Tony Williams was a safety, right? Jacquez Joyner was an inside offensive lineman, right? So interior offensive lineman. So he's actually somebody that I would have liked to keep. So they must have seen something that they didn't like out of him. Taven Jackson, we know, is out in the portal. His NIL value right now, $370,000, which is less than what we paid for him. Kylan Fox, sophomore out of Logan Mill, Georgia. Mama Fox was very supportive of UCF. We were expecting a lot of things out of him. He was a 4-star coming out of high school, tight end, $325,000. Jacob Good, sophomore. He's the guy that got left. Or told us he was leaving in the middle of the BYU game. Don't have a value on him yet. And then Jalen Hayward, who was also a 4-star safety out of Rockledge, which kind of stinks because we got another player because of Jalen Hayward. He's $330,000. I don't know why he's transferring. I mean, he's a sophomore and didn't break the starting lineup, so I assume that's why. But that's who's in the portal and what they're getting. It's crazy that we're talking about $300,000 players for players that didn't get any playing time. Right?
I don't listen. Well, Roger and I own a business. Roger owns a couple. I couldn't imagine spending that. Like, how much money would I have to bring in to pay someone to attempt to possibly do nothing? Like, this just blows my mind. I know sports is not my business, but man,
well, at least $54 million a year, right?
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. Well, I will say though, there's a difference. Spending $54 million gets a top 4 and a bye in the first round. Like, look, I get why Lee Hunter left. I get it. I don't like it. I get it. I just
yeah.
I can't fathom that. I can't fathom that yet. It's going to take time.
Well, there's a lot of horse trading going on right now, but one name to keep an eye on for the portal party is Texas's CJ Baxter. CJ Baxter was a highly rated 4-star running back out of Central Florida. He when Gus Malzahn was here, he was offered. He was we were in his top 3. He almost came here, but obviously Texas dropped not just one bag, but 2 bags, but an entire dump truck in his doorstep. And he ended up going there. I mean, this was to the point where he was on local Twitter spaces. Space Nights was one of them, where he was a regular on there talking about that and how excited he was about UCF, etc. Now, he did have an injury, but he was a starter as a freshman at running back for Texas. So this is someone that we could get a little bit cheaper. High quality player, someone that I definitely think we should make a run at. We will get Stacey Gage back. We will get Tavion Swint back. And I think that refills up our cup. And we've got some good freshmen coming in too at the running back position. But I think that fills up our cup back at the running back position. And I think he could be someone that would be a difference maker here, like RJ Harvey was at UCF. And we've already got the ties with him as well. Another thing that was the UCF board had a meeting recently, and one of the things that came out of there, we kind of talked a little bit about that last week, but one of the things that came out of there was something called a private funding cap. So one thing when it comes to fundraising is if you get bonds and public bonds, there's a cap on the amount of private investment that can be either applied to or put towards those bonds for matching funds, right? And that cap is 10%. So what they did, and this is, I know, a bunch of financial stuff that nobody really cares about, but there's a reason I'm saying this, right? What they did was they, as part of this TDT funding, they did say that they basically moved some of that private investment because it was getting close to that 10% cap or $10 million cap. Now, I'm off. I can't remember if it was 10% or 10 million. I think it's 10%. They were getting close to that cap. And so now they've moved some of that money off the books. So now we can go back out and fundraise. And why that's important is because how we spend our money is limited. How we spend our donation money is limited by those caps that are in place. We moved it back down to zero, which now opens up the doors for us to go back with it for investments or donations that were kind of tabled. So what you'll see is now in the next 6 months to a year, you're going to see more donations, private donations come in that were kind of held off on because we weren't able to take the money and leverage it through bonds. And that's how we pay for everything, because we don't get all of that up front. We basically say, hey, we've got a piece of paper that says someone's going to pay us X amount over this period of time. Go ahead and front us the money with the public bond so that we can do our infrastructure build, because we're good for it, right? And so that's capped because there's a risk that's associated with that, right? Because if someone doesn't pay or their financial situation changes over that period of time, they may default on that, and then the state is left holding the bag for that bond. So that's why that cap is on there, to limit the risk. Well, they've gone back to zero, which means you should see more donations, larger donations coming in to help with infrastructure. Also, they said that they are on target to finish. They're about 50% done with the tower, but they're on target with the tower to complete at least the exterior construction for the tower. Now, they still would have to do fit and finishes on the inside, but they're on target to do that. The rest of that 50% is really the interior stuff that they're going to have to do, because right now it's just a skeleton. They're moving along really, really quickly. So those were a couple of things that came out of that board meeting that's interesting, but that means that fundraising should be accelerated. We should be seeing more funds coming in and more building, because that is also, until we pay those things down on that 10% cap, that becomes problematic. The last thing that they also mentioned is that they're consolidating the donation channels, right? So what that basically means is those donation channels that they're coming in, they're consolidating those under one umbrella. So go check that out if you haven't. Okay. We've talked a lot about football, but let's go ahead and swiv it to UCF hoops. So lots of excitement about UCF hoops. We are 8-1 officially, with the one loss to a team that is on fire.
Yeah.
We are. This is the best start under Johnny Dawkins of any team that we've had, and the best start in 10 years. Now, are there some folks on our schedule that kind of help with that? Probably, but the reality is that's exactly what it is. Now, having looked at the first polls that came out, the AP Top 25 and the coaches poll, there was some movement, and a Big 12 team is now number one with Arizona on the AP Top 25. For the coaches poll, it's Michigan. So they're interchangeable depending on which poll you go with. Duke is squarely number 3. Iowa State is number 4. So in the top 25 right now, there are 1, 2, 3. Houston checks in at number 7, 10 BYU. So that's 4, 5 if you include Texas Tech. Kansas, that's 6, who's uncharacteristically 7 and 3 at number 19. In the top 25 right now, right? So that's a great start. What's interesting to me is we are not receiving votes despite Oklahoma State receiving 54 votes and having a similar RPI and similar schedule than what we do. We just played another game and against Towson, and you said, hey, maybe Towson might be a problem. Well, they weren't a problem. A big part of that was the length. They did have a 7-footer, one, and they had 2 scorers. They just didn't have any help around that, and they could not play defense. Our guys pretty much bodied them early and then started making shots. It just that game they had no chance. Fulks had another great game, distributing the ball, and I feel like he's finally found that balance that we were looking for from Fulks. He was distributing really, really, really well. And again, he led the team in points with 20 points, 8 of 11, and 3 out of 3. Again, it's never the same player every week. Jeremy Fomina kept up his dominance with his minutes. Really enjoyed Johnson. He's getting more playing time right now, which is really, really important because he's going to have to be our backup point guard for the rest of the season. Do we have other folks that can score? Yeah. But reality is, they're playing unselfish ball, and we're going to need folks. Stillwell, again, he had 15 points. Burks had 8 points. Bowl pitched in 5. He was 2 of 3. He was, if you don't realize this yet, but Bowl was an 80% field goal percentage, made shot percentage for the year. Riley Kugel chipped in 6. Our 3-point percentage still not great. Pacheco, when he was open on the side, he did really well. 29% shooting, but field goal percentage 55%. So what do you take from this game? What do you think, Josh? What do you take from this game?
I think at this point we're not going to know that much more until Kansas. I think we know everything we're going to know until that game. We were gelling as a team, which I think is great. We are taking care of business where we should. And what Vandy's like 15th now, and we were competitive in that game a significant part of the way. It was a loss, and it wasn't a small loss, but we beat every team we should have, and maybe one we shouldn't have. We haven't done that in a while. I'll talk about that later in the episode, but we haven't done that in quite some time since
who shouldn't we have beaten, Josh?
I'd say Texas A&M at full strength was probably a close loss.
They had one player out and they were discombobulated. We took over. They could not handle our press.
100% at the end of the game, absolutely. Pitt we probably should have beaten, but I'd say Texas A&M at full strength is what's interesting is then a close game. Now it'd be interesting because what we keep seeing is the team keeps the conversation about Fulks 2 or 3 weeks ago from you. It's like all he could do is drive left and he dishes out and does turnovers, right? It's different now. The whole team seems to be like getting it against teams that we should beat. And we have a couple coming up against probably should as well, but not like 1 in 10 teams like the women's team is going to face this coming week. They're like 7-3, close losses to Tennessee, maybe a game they shouldn't have lost against Winthrop, or they got blown out with it. But they are winning games too. So what I think is that we have 3 more games that we should win, that we should figure out how good we are when Kansas comes here on July 3rd. And see how that game goes this year, which I am not selling my tickets to. I'm actually flying back early from a vacation to go to the game.
A very winnable game against the 7-3 Kansas squad, by the way.
Yeah, and so this is very similar to another year, which I'll talk about later. We're taking care of business. We're not doing too many silly things. We got away with a really junk game that I went to at the beginning of the year. The Hofstra game was when coming out of that game, I was like, oh geez, what's going on in this season? And then Vandy was like, okay, that's not bad. And then now we're where we're at. I think this is a really good team. I think can this team be focused? And can this team play the same against adversity, against much better competition? Is what I
don't even think it's much better competition. I think it's much bigger competition.
Fair.
Right. So
Fair.
So here's the thing, with you talked a lot about Fulks there. The biggest difference that I see with Fulks right now is that he's taking the scoring opportunities when he gets them. He's not passing it off every single time. Fair. Now, he's still in this game got hung up or trapped in the corner, so he's got to be careful with that. But not only is he distributing the ball, but he's also taking shots and driving the paint, which you need both for that to do. So when they space the floor, when the defense spaces the floor, he's driving the paint. I also think the emergence of Chris Johnson is going to help against some of those bigger teams. When Chris Johnson can handle the rock, and he's a guy that's not going to facilitate, he's the guy you throw in there when you need points in the paint, right? And that's something we weren't sure that we had just yet. So he's not going to be a team guy. When you see him in there, he's going to be trying to drive the basket. He's a scoring point guard. Then you combine that when you have him out there, right? And you combine that with Riley Kugel, who's also very much that way. If right now defenses haven't been focusing on haven't been focusing on Fulks because he hasn't been a scoring threat. So he needed to develop himself as a scoring threat in order to free up some space for Riley Kugel, etc. Because when he gets into it, he's another really, really good ball handler and someone who can, can score through tough basketball. And in Big 12, it's very physical basketball. A lot of our guys are that mid-range length. You've got Stillwell who's coming on, who's really figuring it out, which is going to be great for us. And again, he reminds me, and this team reminds me a little bit about those great Houston teams at the end of the AAC and into the Big 12 that were championship teams, right? And it'll be interesting to see what happens if and when we get into the Big 12 against their bigs. Because one of the advantages that we've had this year that we haven't had before was we were a top 25 team on the glass, right? So when it comes to rebounding, that has turned into transition offense for us. The defense, you saw a little bit more of that last week, has to continue to turn into transition offense. However, one of the things that will have an advantage that will frustrate some of these teams is that in the second halves of games, if they're a close game, we've got folks that can drive the paint and make their field goals in Kugel and Johnson, right? Which will be really, really important during, against those big body Big 12 teams. We have someone that can score and be fouled if we need them to, and play that game towards the end of the game. And we also have the ability to press because we've got enough depth in this rotation that we have the ability to press when we need to. So that will help in late game situations. The other thing is Femina coming on so strong the last 3 or 4 games and figuring out that helps us, because one of the concerns we had in the front court was, all we had was Bowl. Bowl's kind of figuring it out, but having Fomina in there to be able to be, especially if you put him in there with Stillwell, against the more physical teams, as long as they don't, they aren't going to be able to get away with as much hand checking and stuff in the Big 12. And against certain teams at the Big 12, you definitely won't be able to get away with anything, right? So they're going to have to be careful of that. But those are physical guys that can go up along with Caldwell and get be on the glass. So if we continue to be good on the glass, that turns into transition offense. This game we had 4 steals, 3 blocks, only 9 turnovers. And again, that turnover to assist ratio, I talk about it every year. We're going to have high assists. If we limit the turnovers based on those assists, then we'll be A-okay in my point, in my estimation, because we can definitely do that over. And if, the other thing we have is we have enough 3-point shooters that we can be consistent there too. So between Kugel, Fulks, Pacheco, and there's another one that's kind of been waiting on the wings because he's injured and I can't remember what his name is. We have shooters there. So this is a well-balanced team and probably the most balanced team we've had in a really long time. But the proof will be in the pudding with the bigs, because we're kind of mid-size. We're not big. We're not small.
It's a good team. It's a good, solid team. And let's call it what it is. We have 4 teams in the top 10 in the Big 12 right now. There's the most amount of teams from a conference in the top 10. We are in a really crazy league, a league of its own. No, we are a phenomenal team. And truth be told, I don't know if everyone, Iowa State crushed Purdue, and Purdue is not a nothing of a team. It's their first loss, and they just it was not close. Iowa State's only close game this entire season, and they're 9-0, was against St. John's, who's still in the top 25, and they're in the top 25 at 5-3. Okay.
Well, I mean, think about this. You've got number 21 Kansas to. OSU may be ranked by that point because they are only 1 or 2 spots out of being ranked. You've got K-State, then you've got number 1 Arizona, then number 9, I think, Iowa State. Number 4, Iowa State.
4,
right? Yeah. And that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conference games.
Yeah. That's what, and that's why if we can get towards, that's why it's saying getting towards 500 makes sense. I'd like to see how we are competitive against these really good teams. And I do agree with you. It's interesting. This year, Kansas State, beatable. Kansas, maybe beatable, right?
Kansas is beatable.
I'm trying to hedge a little bit, but we have a good team, and I want to see them against teams of our conference caliber, and that's where the rubber is going to meet the road. I wouldn't be surprised if we win the next 3. I wouldn't be surprised if when they're all at home, they're all against teams that have some losses that make you go, yeah. We'll. That's why I say
about in conference. Are you talking about in conference or out?
Atlantic, Florida, Gulf Coast, and Mercer, right? We should be. That's why I say that we're going to figure out who we are, really who we are at that Kansas game, regardless of outcome, win, loss. Well, yeah, regardless of outcome. That's one where I think we'll get our first, okay, this is what this team is.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's bring some reality to Kansas again, right? So one of the things about Kansas, their 3 losses: number 25 North Carolina, number 5 Duke, number 5 UConn.
Yeah.
Wins against Missouri, wins against number 17 Tennessee, beat the bricks off of Syracuse, beat Notre Dame about the same. They've got a pretty good defense. They're holding teams to 50 to 60 points per game. So that'll be a difficult game, but they are beatable. So we'll see.
That's what I'm saying. That's a good litmus test game of where we are generally. What we're seeing on the court is that we're doing well against competition we should be better than mostly. and we are working well together. We're playing how Johnny Dawkins wants to play. Let's play another team that knows what they're doing, that could beat a top 25 team. That's relatively competitive against probably some of the top 15, top 10 teams in the nation. And let's see what happens. That's what I'm saying. I think that's where the rubber meets the road for us. And close loss, closer big win, still fine. We lose by 50 again. Okay, we have another conversation to have. But I do think that this feels like a changed team in a positive year. And we'll know really like within
this schedule is going to be front loaded. Looking even at Iowa State, right? You got Purdue, which was their most recent win. They beat the brakes off Purdue 81-58. Right. And Purdue was number one in the country at the time. They beat St. John's, number 14, 83-82. So that was a close game. They beat Creighton 78-60, Syracuse 95-64, Mississippi State 96-80. These teams that we're playing are for real. So it's front loaded. Let me just put it this way. If we get into conference and we go 2-2, that's a win. If we go 1-3 against those teams, I'm okay with that because we're going to pick up. But I mean, out of conference, the Big 12 has taken care of what they needed to. Yeah. Kansas State and TCU, which is interesting. Yeah. And Cincinnati all round out the bottom there. West Virginia has been good as well, and they're always a tough team for us. I mean, you look at this, we don't know what we're going to get until we get in conference, but that we're not going to get penalized from the RPI. So the fact that we're 8-1 and the only team that we lost to was a really, really good team, that's going to help. The wins that we did have that were big wins were quad 1, 2, and 3. Even Quinnipiac was a quad 3 win, despite what their schedule was, right? You look at TCU, they lost against Notre Dame 87-85 and a squeaker. They lost against number 6 Michigan 67-63. Number 6 at the time, number 2 or number 1, depending on which poll you look at right now, 67-63. Yeah. They lost against New Orleans 78-74 to start the season. But again, beat Wisconsin, beat number 10 Florida 84-80. This conference, and we'll, as we get into the conference play, we'll look at it more. But this team is a good team in a really, really good conference. So if getting to 500 can happen, but it's going to be tough because
it is.
This is a really good conference.
This is why you got the stank face if we get 1-3 on the first 4, because that kind of tells us most of what we need to know. It's also like, let's talk. You're talking about the one loss we have to Vandy, which was Vandy's closest win, if you will. Like they've beaten everyone by 10 plus. We're the closest of the wins, and some of them are good, like SMU's, and some of them are good wins, right? They're not beating world beaters left and right, but they're also 9-0 and playing decent competition, which we were at that time, and still are. So that I would like, if I had a magic wand, if we get to 2-2 out of those 4, assuming we're going to lose to 2 top 5 teams in the nation, which it's possible. There's some things we need to we need to get some wins against top 25 competition in our own conference. We got to do that this year. 1 or 2 somewhere, need to probably get to 18-20 wins. And it's possible. It's possible. So it's an excited time for basketball. I'll tell you that. Like it's nice to have
something that we haven't been talking enough about, but I think everybody's kind of on the edge and saying we're good, but are we good enough for the Big 12? And I don't think people will get excited about that till then. Correct. If we were in any other conference.
Oh yeah.
Which is crazy to me, right? Yeah. If we were in any other conference, UCF basketball fans would be extremely excited because this team would be at or near the top of the conference. Even as it stands, we're number 5 in the conference right now.
Yeah.
Right. And again, these are out of conference games, right? But still number 5. And this is a really, really, really good conference. This is what the SEC purports to be in football to basketball. And if anybody questioned that,
Yeah.
I hope we helped educate you a little bit on that.
Yeah. It's good.
All right. So
Really
let's talk
good.
a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Swivet again. I'm going to just do a quick update on UCF baseball. The schedule was released today, where there's 30 games at home, which is crazy. Now, there's usually about 42 to 44 games in a baseball schedule. So that should tell you how many games we have at home and how many series we have at home relative to others. So teams that we have at home this year that you should be excited about. Number 16, Miami, who was in the Super Regionals last year. Number 7, Arizona, who was in the College World Series last year. Number 8, Murray State, which was also in the College World Series. Now, I don't know how good Murray State's going to be this year. They typically have a good team, but again, they are Murray State, right? We have the Cows in a War on I-4 matchup. And then other people that were in regionals, Oklahoma State, Arizona State, Kansas State, Cincinnati, all from the Big 12, Columbia, and BCU. Now, one of the things that we always do every year is we talk to our good friend Rich Wallace for a breakdown of the team. We kind of wanted to wait a little bit longer until we got closer to the season so he could give us a little more detail. We will talk to Rich Wallace. We'll have an interview on him with him here live as well. So you guys will be able to ask questions if you'd like in the comments. Now we'll be a little bit more choosy, I guess, with what we talk about with Coach Wallace. But it'll be exciting to get him on as we get closer to the season and kick off the season. All right, let's swiv it yet again. And get into, wow. And you sound so excited, Josh. I mean, just really, really excited. But let's get into something I always get excited about, which is a little bit of a listener love. This is our segment to honor you as you interact with us and like and subscribe and follow and comment on all the craziness that we have here and that we talk about every week. And we want to make sure that we celebrate you because we do it for you. So make sure you're telling your friends as a reminder, but we appreciate everything that you do, especially when you chime in. So Econ Advisor, frequent commenter, says, so hilarious to see how, this was 3 days ago, he says, so hilarious to see how football is still so much less likely to transfer than in basketball, where all but the best and worst schools see annual transfer floods. Thus, little continuity. Football has too many for NIL to finance due to 5 times the starters, etc. Further, basketball is not a Florida stronghold, so far less an advantage in recruiting frosh transfers. Finally, the coach is far more crucial in basketball to turning a program around quickly into a great extent. So he said a lot there, and I'm going to break some of this down a little bit. And first of all, thank you, Econ. Always love your comments. And when you participate, usually we see you in the comments during the live show. Unfortunately, we're not this week. However, couple of things to talk about here. Yes, there's way more transfers in basketball. There have been for a very long time, but it's also much easier to put together a team in basketball and have them be successful because it's not as complex. You don't have to have as many good players, right, on the field or the court at one time as you do in football. Also, the plays are a lot more complex. Yes, you have set plays. Yes, you have systems that are in basketball. But if you look at it, a dribble handoff or a weave or, a pick and roll, any of that kind of stuff, that's not complicated. You've got some movement, but you've only got really 2 players that are causing that to work. Whereas in football, you have more defenders and you have more people that are in sync on the football side that have to work together for a team to work. So 100% agree, and that's really the why. As far as basketball not being a Florida stronghold, I don't know about that. High school basketball in the state of Florida is really, really good. We have a lot of folks. Now, granted, It's not the traditional, stronghold that you would have in the Mid-Atlantic states and specifically in the DMV. I lived there for a while. That is a real thing. Johnny Dawkins came from there. He has a lot of contacts there. The DMV is a real thing for college or for high school basketball, but Florida has a lot of players as well. Remember, we're the third most populous state, behind Texas and California. So you've got a lot of high school basketball players out there and a lot of teams that are pay teams basically for high school and travel teams in Florida that put forth a lot of really, really good players. So I wouldn't agree with that. It's not as much of a stronghold. Florida does really well year in and year out. Miami's been doing a lot better. FSU's done well. We've done better. Even the Cows did good relative to the AC. And there were Florida players everywhere there. It's just there's less spots, right? So I agree with that. I think it's all relative to the talent and what we can afford, because one thing we are disadvantaged in is what we can spend. Now, again, this year, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, right? We can spend more because we have a higher budget. First full year on that. Now, it doesn't all get paid at once, right? And some of it, we've got about 17. We've got Terry Mahajar's strategy. Part of what he's talked about is he's got extra scholarships. So basketball has extra scholarships this year, as well as some of the other sports. And our pool for paying players has gone up as well with that. So we should be more competitive in the future, but we've got a pretty good squad. Texas recruited 4888 chimes in. He says UCF basketball is about to have the best start in school history, and people are talking about football. Okay, football drives the bus, and it still does for us as well. But we do talk about a healthy amount of basketball, and we at least put at least one segment that will transition more as we get more games going. Ben will filter back in. We will talk about more basketball, but we have been talking about basketball. But you're right, more people are still talking about football because there's a lot to talk about there because we're not where we want to be. And there's a lot of open question marks. There's a lot of roster movement that's going along in football. We've got open questions as to how many portal players, and then you've got the coaching carousel and then portal going in. So there's a lot to talk about that will affect and impact UCF's efforts for 2026. So I agree with you, but basketball's starting to drive the bus, and we'll continue to focus on that. But we try to give you at least a good breakdown of what we're seeing between Ben and I, and a good breakdown of where we think this team's going. Josh, anything to add to that?
No, I think we're good.
All right. We have some more viewers. Unfortunately, we dropped a couple, but we gained some back. Welcome again. I cannot see your names when you are set on private. So, but this is a good reminder. Remember, we do this for you. We do not monetize this channel, but it does help us with the reach in the algorithms. So if you like, subscribe, comment, and more importantly, tell your friends. We get anywhere between 13 to 17,000 views a month on this channel, and we have 257 subscribers. I hate calling that out, but there's a lot of you that are watching our content that are not subbing. So please do us the favor and go ahead and hit that subscribe button, if for no other reason, to help us get the word out about the content we put out.
Now I understand why everyone's like, smash that subscribe button, because it's kind of insane. And listen, I'm guilty of it too. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm guilty of it too when I'm doing my streaming of videos and stuff on social media. I get it. I have to practice more what I preach too.
All right.
I get it.
So we're yelling at Josh. Josh, you need to go in the corner and whip yourself, or whatever it is you need to do to atone.
Pause? What is this? What is this? Jeez.
I'll tell you after. Okay. Let's go ahead and swim it yet again, because Alan's out. To Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
All right. One of these days, I'm going to make the funny fact of the week about comedians. Like, did you know that Gary Owen, who actually today's Monday, yeah, he's probably ending his set now at the Funny Bone. So 8-1. That's our men's basketball team. We're tied with one of the best starts since 2010, and in 2010 we won the first 14 games straight. So little obscure, but why not? Roger's been around for a hot minute. In 2010, during that 14 game stretch, which former player had the highest point total during half of those games?
Was it Keith Clanton?
It was not.
Is it Sykes?
One more guess.
Was it our diminutive friend from Chicago, whose name I can't remember?
Are you talking about AJ Ramza?
Yes, AJ Ramza.
Also wrong. So amazingly enough,
am I thinking the wrong team? Was that not the 2010
no,
team?
you're thinking of the right team.
So you're not. So you're saying Jordan?
It was Marcus Jordan.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
And no, right team. And I was not surprised it was him, but I was looking at it like I would have thought Clanton, probably not as much Ramza. Ramza was, I loved watching him when he was playing here. He's that player you don't want to play against. Just feisty, annoying, good. Like, it just, I loved watching him play. There was a time where he had a game-winning shot and like ran up on right next to Mark Daniels and
he hated Marshall and Marshall hated him.
Yeah.
What was that? Harry Herndon?
The guy who faked having a heart attack every time he came into the arena. Yeah. I forgot his name off the top of my head. I think Greg Harden or something like that. I can't pull that out of my head, but I know exactly who you're talking about. There was no love lost between us and Marshall, generally speaking. So I was really shocked of all the good players of that era, and Jordan was a good player in that era. That he got 7 out of 14 games where he was the leading point scorer. Clanton was close to some of those. Also, not
Tom
so fun
Harrion.
Fact. Yes, thank you. Not so fun fact. After we won 14 in a row, we lost 8 in a row, and people were pissed. I think we're in the top like 18, 19, and we just dropped off a cliff. So yeah, that was not a fun time.
Those were good years for UCF basketball. I remember at that time I used to play a lot of Call of Duty with Isaiah Sykes. And we were the same friends. So Zeke, him and Keith Clanton, it was funny. They got stuck in a hotel one time. Like Keith played Call of Duty too. And then, Casey Wilson, who was at one point, just a fun fact, he was leading the nation in 3-point shooting for a while there as well, out of Port Charlotte. All 3 of those guys, we were playing Call of Duty together at night, which was always fun. But they got stuck in a hotel. They got stuck in the hotel room. And one time, Keith, I guess they went out when they weren't supposed to or something. And Keith lost the room key while they were out and about. So that was a whole thing at the time. So little stories about that, but a really good team. Keith Clanton was a really, really good player. Zeke was a good player. That squad was full up, and it was great to have Jordan in the house, Michael Jordan in the house, to watch those basketball games. He would sit in the arena up in the corner. And people wouldn't even know he's there. And it's Michael Jordan sitting there in the arena, at UCF basketball.
It was a fun time. We're not like that same scrappy like a team that they had to be, but this team, like, some of the things remind me of some of those teams a little bit. So I'm really excited to see what this
also fun fact. The reason why we are a Nike school is because of Marcus Jordan during that time, because Marcus Jordan, we were an Adidas school at the time. And Marcus Jordan was promised, as part of his commitment here by our AD, I think it was Tribble, Wasn't it Tribble
Yeah,
at that time?
I think it was.
Promised by Tribble that he could wear his dad's Jordans.
Yeah.
Despite us having an agreement with Adidas. So supposedly the story goes that Tribble went and talked to the Adidas rep. The regional rep said, let me pull it up the chain. He said, A-OK. He gets here. Jordan gets here, and he even covered up the logos, like the Nike logos and things, when he went out there, and Adidas absolutely lost their minds. So because of that, they pulled their agreement with UCF, and Michael Jordan got involved and got us in with Nike. And that's the reason we are a Nike school.
Yeah.
Little crazy histrionics there. All right. Now that we've both contributed fun facts of the week and went down a trip down memory lane, let's go ahead and swivot yet again to a quick update on other UCF sports that Alan and Andrew do not watch, and probably Trey too.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
So, it's okay. Yeah. The women's basketball team is now 7-3, losing in the final minutes to Stetson, which made
they were winning that entire game.
If you looked at the ESPN, that tracker, they were like 60-70% win percentage until about 2 minutes left in the game. And of all teams to lose to, again, most of you who are probably in your 30s or younger, losing to Stetson was never good ever. When we were going to school, and now I'm not too happy about it either. But again, that's just kind of sometimes how basketball and games and sport happens. But no, I'm not happy about that. They did also beat Delaware State 74-46 this week, yesterday. The next game is against the Morgan State. It's not the Morgan State Bears on Sunday, December 14th at 2 p.m. at the Teddy Bear Toss game, which may or may not be related. I don't know.
Oh,
that's it.
Let me add to that though. In basketball news, Chance McSpadden, someone who's been on this show, who you guys know in basketball, someone we had last year and the year before last, and he comes in and helps us with talking about basketball. His child participated in the baby race and won it by
a mile.
Beat everybody in the baby race.
It's his kid. Oh no, that baby, they would pan back in that baby race, and all the other babies are just like hanging out with the parents, like that was a dominating win by Chance.
Chance is Chance was always known for being tough on the basketball court and energetic and really pushing, right? So it sounds like he's passed on that dog to his offspring. So it'll be interesting because Chance sticks around with the program. He has some things that he's doing on his own, so make sure you're checking him out. We'll probably have him on during the season again and start bringing him back if he has the time. With the baby last year, he didn't have as much time as he normally would, but it'll be interesting. He stays around the program. He's excited about the program. He reps UCF constantly. He was part of that program with the roofing company as well. So, just very, very supportive of not only us, but of the program, and excited for him to see, multiple generations on the same court and to win the baby race. One of the most fun things that we do in during basketball games when we don't have a show. And I think that will do it for us. Did you have anything else?
Briefly. And you are not wrong. This is the most uneventful sports time of the year at this point. Just as a heads up, the next sport outside of basketball to do anything at UCF is going to be women's track and field on January 9th, 2026, a month away at the Rod McCravey Invitational. Let me get that correct. We got basketball. That's all we got. So this will be a short segment for the next couple weeks. And those three better get on back here, because I have a couple of Mondays I'm not going to be around.
Well, the other thing too is December is usually our litmus test for how this season goes. This team has traditionally fallen off a cliff in December under Johnny Dawkins. So let's see what happens. We don't get like 5 or 6 losses in a row. Let's win a few for the Gipper or the Gupper or the Dawkins or whatever you want to call it. Because, this basketball team has potential, but every single one of them has gotten us excited, and then fallen off a cliff. So let's hope that doesn't happen now. That being said, we will more than likely have Rich Wallace on over the next couple of weeks. We'll try to get Chance back in the building. We'll get I just saw the comment in the private chat. It was the Gipper. It was the Gipper, not whatever it was that you put in there. That being said, the Dawkins, exactly.
Gipper.
So
Gipper
anyway, I just want to thank everyone again for following along, liking, sharing, subscribing, and more importantly, commenting. Make sure you tell your friends. I think Josh is on something based on the dancing. So if you're watching this up until this point, I think he's reliving the 90s right now. All right, Josh. Ready?
I'm waiting for you.
And go Knights and
charge on. I don't have to wait for the other people to.
You totally screwed that up for me because, I'm watching you dance. I'm like, what? What do we do here? What do we do to end the show?
Noticing in here. Shout out to